Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 16th. Welcome to the Inside Edge. When Tom Malinowski launched his campaign for the special election for New Jersey's 11th congressional district, despite having previously represented the 7th congressional district and having not really lived all that near the boundaries of the 11th district before, I and a lot of other people, I think, kind of wondered, would voters be okay with a switch like that? Malinowski clearly had all kinds of advantages that no other candidate in the 11th district race could hope to match. I mean, he's got these national connections, he's got congressional experience, he's got an ability to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars pretty quickly. But his Achilles heel was, what if voters simply reject the idea of a congressman from one district a couple years later shifting into a different district and running for that one? And I think we got our first concrete piece of evidence yesterday that is not necessarily how voters are reacting to this race. The Morris County Democrats had their convention on Sunday where they heard from all 12 candidates in this very crowded race. And then they voted virtually for 24 hours, and we got the results out yesterday afternoon. This is a very grassrootsy, small D Democratic type of county committee. They were big fans of their former congresswoman, now Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill, but they were also huge fans of Andy Kim back when he was still in that bitter Senate primary against Tammy Murphy. If there was any kind of sort of grassroots frustration or rejection against Malinowski and his district switching, you might have seen it show up here. And from what I can tell, you didn't really. Malinowski won the endorsement. He won it pretty handily. He got about 40% of the vote in the first round, and then they did ranked choice voting. So after a bunch of rounds of elimination, he ended up with 53%, so he crossed the majority threshold. Essex County Commissioner Brendan Gill had 29%, and Ana Lilia Mejia, former Bernie Sanders staffer, had 18%. They didn't do the calculation to get the final two results, but my math suggests that it would be probably something in the realm of Malinowski 65%, Gill 35%, something around there. That's a pretty strong endorsement. That's a pretty good result for Malinowski. He represented a lot of Morris County in Congress during his first two terms, but it was not this part of Morris County. There's almost no overlap between his old district's portion of Morris County and the new 11th district's portion of Morris County. So the county committee members who were actually voting at this convention were not the people that Malinowski used to represent. Malinowski also released an internal poll a couple of weeks ago that found him, not surprisingly, to be the best known candidate in the field. But it also found that name recognition advantage translating into an actual advantage when it came time to ask people how they would vote. There's an internal poll, so take it with a massive grain of salt. But that's sort of another inkling that we've got that voters already know and basically like Malinowski, but specifically are not then turning away from him because of the whole, he represented a different district problem. I think the Morris County results have some good news for the other top two finishers. Brendan Gill, he's never had to represent any of Morris before. He's an Essex politician, but he has been laying a lot of groundwork among the Morris Democrats, and you could clearly see that paying off in that he managed to get second place against a bunch of other established politicians, including 4 Morris politicians, 2 of whom hold elected office in Morris, 2 of whom live in Morris, and none of whom necessarily caught on among Morris Democrats. And then Mejia more than doubled the number of votes from the first round to the last round, which indicates that there's some level of she's trying to run as the most progressive candidate in the race. And I think you maybe saw some signs of progressive consolidation in how county committee members ranked their ballots. The question is, will voters know to consolidate behind her instead of one of the other more progressive candidates in the race who maybe has less of a shot of winning? And there's lots of other candidates running, and this remains a very unpredictable race. I have no idea how it's going to go down for the next, it's only really a little under 2 months at this point. But we have to go off the results we have. And right now, these Morris results are some of the firmest. I mean, this was almost 500 people voting, so it's not a totally insignificant number of people. And I think that it shows that Malinowski is in a pretty decent position. I think all the other candidates will have to be making their arguments about why they are, in fact, the better choice. The candidates who have more money and more connections to do so will obviously be in a better seat to do so. But I also think that they might have to start seriously thinking about how to make the argument that Tom Malinowski specifically should not be the choice. Because if he's got all of these, all this money, and if he's got all this name recognition, and he's got all these built-in advantages, and voters aren't instinctively turning away from him because of his biggest Achilles heel, then all of his opponents are going to maybe have to find another route to get across the finish line here. So that's all I've got for today. Have a great